Greetings, it's Mark here from Cahoots Photo Books. In this session we're going to have a look at some of the basic tweaks that you might want to apply to your photo book once you've finished laying out all your images, just to make it look a little bit better. One of the things that you will most commonly want to do is to configure what part of your image is displayed in the placeholder on your page. In this particular case, I've got square images arranged in my template, and my source photo is rectangular in landscape format. So by default, the software will display as much of the photo as possible, and it will position the crop box in the center of the photo. So always when I click on a placeholder, I will see where my crop box is situated in this crop tab. I can change the position of the crop box, and I will change what is visible in my image placeholder. And I want to position my crop box on the right hand side here. I can also zoom in by grabbing any handle and adjusting accordingly. And this portion of the image defined by the crop rectangle is what's going to be visible on my page. It doesn't matter which handle I click and drag, because I have keep aspect ratio checked. So that means it's impossible for me to change the shape of the image placeholder on the page. If I want to change the shape of the image placeholder, I can do one of two things. I can uncheck the keep aspect ratio, and that will mean that I can pull one of these handles and the others will stay in the same place. And what's happened on my page is that my image placeholder has assumed the shape of the crop rectangle. And now my image placeholder is not nicely aligned with the rest of the placeholders on the page. So that might not be necessarily what I want to do. I can click undo to take that back, and I can click to keep my aspect ratio. Sometimes you'll find that if you are zoomed in too small, you may cause a poor resolution flag to become visible. So that means I've got not really enough pixels to make this a reasonable quality when it's printed. So if you get these flags, in particular the poor resolution flag, you should, as a first thing, zoom out if you have zoomed in. And now I find I've got enough pixels in my image. The other thing you can do is use the Shift key and drag your image in situ. So this is a bit like a fixed window, and I'm dragging the underlying image by using the Shift key and the mouse button at the same time. So in this situation, I'm working directly on the page and I'm sliding the photo underneath my fixed image placeholder. Whereas over on the crop rectangle, I'm physically dragging the actual visible window. And a final note, if you find that you want to change the shape of your image placeholder, you will find that because you have an image inserted, it's always going to respect the aspect ratio. I'm still dealing with a square shape in this situation. If I want to change the shape away from a square, I've got two options. I can use the Shift key and drag one of these side handles. That will change the shape of my placeholder when I have an image inside it. So or the other thing that you can do is you can remove the image, and if there's no image, you are free to make this shape whatever you want. The other thing that you might want to do with your images is to enhance their appearance when printed. You can do some basic enhancements using the properties box on the right-hand panel. There is a button labeled histogram. If you click on that, that will apply a cookie cutter adjustment to your image. Now, that may not give you a better result at all. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. There's no analysis of your particular image. It's simply applying some pre-configured adjustments. If it looks good, then that's fine. If it looks a bit extreme, which in this case I'm judging it a little bit extreme, it's made the building quite a bit overexposed. So I'm going to switch it off. In this case, I'm going to turn on expert mode. Expert mode is the button in the top right. That gives me a few more possibilities for working with Cahoots Easy Designer. And one of these is the exposure button. I'm going to try clicking on this, and I will see some adjustments that I can make in the parameters down below. So I can adjust the lightness, which is what you would expect from exposure. I can also adjust the saturation if I feel that the brightening has washed things out a little. And if I needed to, I could adjust the hue. So I would advise not making drastic adjustments with any of these tools. Otherwise, you might find that the printed image is not quite how it looked to you on your screen. That's because everybody's monitors are different, and everybody's monitors are backlit, which is not the same as having an image on a printed piece of paper. That's not backlit. So only make these adjustments if you feel your images are crying out for them. Otherwise, maybe you just leave it best alone. Now, in this case, I've just made a few subtle tweaks, and we can see the difference when I switch the exposure button off, when I switch it on. So it's quite subtle, but I'm judging it as a small improvement. So that's one simple, two simple things you can do. Check the histogram first, that's your easiest one. If it makes a good adjustment, you can leave it. Definitely do not run through your whole book and make these histogram adjustments. You only should use it if you really feel that the image is not as good as it should be. Then your option with exposure, you have a little bit more control over how you want your images to look. And then another third option is to double click the image, and that will give you a full screen rendition of your image, the cropped portion that's visible on the page, and a whole range of different adjustments that you can make. Once again, these are not nearly as good as you will find in a fully fledged image editing application such as Photoshop or similar. And once again, I wouldn't advise delving deeply into any of these tools except for doing the most basic adjustments. If I click on the More Tools menu item, I can fiddle with the contrast and brightness. It doesn't take a lot of adjustment to see an effect, so I would once again urge some caution. And I think that is making things a little bit too bright. So in my case, I can revert, I can cancel or go OK, and I'm back to my original image. So those are your three options for manipulating images. Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye for now.